how not to get knocked out.
He clips it behind the head. That's it.
There's a lot of levers here to pull, and it's actually not a very easy problem to solve. You can see this because you see really good fighters get knocked out all the time. I myself got knocked out 2 times in a row. It wasn't a whole lot of fun. Now, both of these times that I got knocked out were pretty bad and savage. One broke my jaw in 3 places, and the other one left me with post-concussion symptoms for like 7 to 8 months. So I had to take like a whole year off of fighting and sparring. Like, it was a long time. So I had to really think about this problem very deeply and figure out how not to let it happen again. There's a bunch of stuff we can do, but the biggest lever to pull is to make sure that your hands are up, especially in punching distance. Hands high, keep your head between them. We've talked about this before. Some people like to do this kind of stuff when they're moving their head around. Real good way to get head kick knockout, or even just get knocked out with a hook that you thought was a straight right hand or something, and it comes around the corner and bang, now you're out. This becomes even more important, the directions that you're moving your head, right? So like while you're punching, right? If I'm throwing my right hand, right, and my left hand is down, this gets real bad real quick if they're throwing something on that side, because now I'm going into it. Unfortunately, one of our recent fights here at the gym, we had a guy lefty and he was throwing a really nice cross, but that front right hand was just a little bit out and disconnected from his face, and he got the hook around the corner. At the same time, down goes Frazier. Now, he was able to recover. It wasn't a complete knockout, but it was still pretty bad. These are the ways that these things happen, right? We want to stop a double impact, right? It's not bad if I get hit moving this way. It's usually not going to stop me. But if my head is moving this direction and something comes the other direction, like a head-on collision, right, it becomes very bad very quickly. There's a couple systems that we can employ to make sure that our defense is sound enough that we're not getting hurt badly with punches, with kicks. Number one is a blocking system. You need to have a solid blocking system. And that doesn't mean like, okay, person punches, I just put both my hands up like this. Because there's holes in every single guard. You have to actually deal with each punch individually, right? So for instance, if the person is throwing a jab, they're right-handed and I'm right-handed, they're throwing a jab, I block the jab like that. And then I block the right hand like that. Okay, and we could go through how we block every single punch from each stance, but the main thing to focus on is that you need to have solid defensive plans to block every single punch that the person can throw. If I say, okay, how do you block right uppercut in closed stance? You have to know that. And it's not just your brain has to know it. Your body has to be able to do it reactively. So that means you have to drill it so many times that you don't have to think when it's happening, because nobody has the time to think when it's happening. Like, oh, here comes the uppercut. I know, I'm gonna bring my forearm in front of my face and take it like that. Like, you don't have time for that. It's like, uppercut, bang, right? And your body just goes and you don't have time for it to think, right? So we need a solid blocking system. We also need a solid slipping system, okay? Because in MMA, the gloves are really small, right? They're about that big, like this. Right? So using just a blocking system can get you caught. Every single block has holes in it, right? And you see this when people try to block the right hand. Blocking the right hand like this, like you're taught in boxing, boom. You could also block like that. I don't really like this block. I think it's kind of whack, but people do block like that. Regardless, there's this hole in between right there that you can't really deal with, right? Like there's nothing you can do to close off that space perfectly. So if you're blocking the overhand, you're coming up here like this, okay, your body's open. There's also the shell, you can block like that, but now again, your body's open. Like there's always something that's open. So a lot of the times it's better to not have the punch hit at all. First blocking, but then slipping. So you need to be able to pull punches in different directions, right? break punches. We call this a break, right? We call this a dip. Now, I have this terminology and everybody calls these things a little bit different. Some people just say slip, right? But I feel like you should have specific names for every slip so you can tell people what the hell to do, right? Like, oh, pull that or break that, right? When they're fighting. So you don't have to be like, just slip the punch, because then they're gonna slip the wrong direction right into a head kick or something. Real bad, right? So you need to have a blocking system. You need to have a slipping system. Now, the third piece to the puzzle would be a footwork system. If you can use your feet to get in and out of danger and put the odds in your favor, it's really, really helpful, right? Because people get knocked out mainly in the pocket. Sometimes people get knocked out on the outside with head kicks and stuff like that, but most of it really happens in 50-50 position. 50-50 position, what I call 50-50 anyway, although yes, obviously Ryan Hall has a system called 50-50, but there's many 50-50 situations in MMA. And one 50-50 striking situation is if my right shoulder is lined up with your left shoulder and your left shoulder is lined up with my right shoulder. So we're like nose to nose, right in front of each other, and we're in a close range where we can both hit each other with punches. That situation is something that I urge you to try to avoid if possible, okay? Because that's where most of the issues happen. This is one lever that I pulled anyway after these knockouts. I made sure that that situation didn't happen, right? Which is why I was moving so much. But in moving, you can also move the wrong way and move right into something that's powerful. So where do we move? If it's me, I believe we should move to the weak side 70% of the time. This is my numbers theory to just try to put the odds in my favor a little bit. What's the weak side, right? Well, if I'm right-handed, the weak side will be away from my power. So if I'm fighting you like this and you're circling that way 70% of the time, it's gonna put you away from this and put you away from this, and now it puts the numbers a little bit more in your favor. Not saying I can't find a way to get to you over here, but it's a little bit tougher for me. I gotta be a little bit better. But you can't just move one way, which is why we say 70-30, right? So you move 70% towards the weak side. You move 30% towards the strong side. Because you can finish people on both of these angles. You can finish people over here, you can finish people over here. You could get finished over here, you could get finished over here. But if you're still making people choose, right? You go this way, and then you go this way, and then you go this way. It's harder to figure out what the pattern is. Most of striking, at least the way I see it, is pattern recognition. If I do something, whether it's good or bad, okay, if I do something and then I repeat it, and then I repeat it, and then I repeat it, okay, well now the person is starting to read that and they're like, oh, okay, I see what they're doing. And even if the thing I'm doing is really good and really safe, there's still gonna be a hole, right? Like I could throw a really clean jab, right? But if I throw the jab from the same place all the time, the person's gonna start reading it and they're gonna find a way to hit me while I'm doing it. So we want to make sure that we're not repeating the same pattern. And that works with our footwork too. So we're moving to the weak side 70% of the time, moving to the strong side 30% of the time. The worst situation you could ever get in is to have your back on the fence while not moving with the person in 50-50, right? So your noses are lined up, your back is on the fence, you can't go that way, you can only go this way and that way, and they're really close and in the pocket. This is a real bad situation. But it doesn't mean it's only bad for this guy. It's also can be very bad for the person pressing, as we all saw last weekend with the Pereira knockout. Izzy's on the fence like this, and then bang, bang, kills the guy in front of him. And we see that happen more often than you would expect, actually, where the guy is in a good position and still gets knocked out by the guy that's in a bad position. And so whenever you're here, you should really try never to get here in 50-50. But even on offense in 50-50, pinning the guy on the wall with your presence in that pocket type situation, that pocket distance, you got to be really, really careful there. You got to make sure that you are in a good, safe, defensive position. just because you got the guy pinned on the wall and he can't really move and you kind of figured out his timing, doesn't mean you should come in like this. You're gonna die now. I see this all the time where somebody gets hurt and they back up to the wall and the guy's like, I'm gonna finish you. But there's no sophistication in the finish. They're not like feinting and tricking the guy. They're not trying to see what the person's reaction is gonna be. They're just like, kill, 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 die, right? And they get hit like this when they're moving like this and the punch comes this way and this hand is down, bang. There's that head-on collision, right? That double impact. Happens a lot of the time to this guy. Also happens to this guy here. So if you're on defense on the wall, try not to stop. If you stop and wait, it's just too much information. It's way too difficult to figure out what the other guy's gonna do in order to like slip and just counter. If you can, try to keep moving a little bit. Just even if it's just creeping one way and creeping the other way, because then they're gonna have to try to figure out what to line you up for. You can kind of plan off of that. Like I said, this is a complicated problem. It's not just something that's easy, otherwise no one would get knocked out, right? Or people would figure out how to never let this happen. No matter what happens, no matter how much planning you go through and how deeply you think about this problem and how much drilling you do, okay, there's still this dice roll anytime you go in the cage. It's not always the best fighter that wins. It's just the person that fights the best on that night, the person that makes the smartest decisions in those nanoseconds, right? So regardless, you have to do as much as you can to alleviate that by putting as many of these defensive pieces into play as possible. Solid blocking system. Make sure your hands are really high. You can pick off everything. Solid slipping system. What do you slip the jab with? What do you slip the right hand with? How do you get under the hook? How do you pivot off? How do you roll? How do you slip these punches in a safe way? Not like this, right? Although it looks and feels super cool, have your blocking hand up, right? So if you're slipping something that's coming down this way and you're going this way, that hand should be up. There's no reason for this hand to be down or over there. Like, it doesn't make sense, right? If you're slipping this way, have the outside hand up, okay? And then the footwork, make sure you have solid footwork so that obviously we were talking about stance before. If you didn't see that, you can go back. We put out a stance video. Make sure that your feet have width and length, right? So your feet are apart. You're not getting crossed over, right? Make sure that you're going to the strong side less than you're going to the weak side. Try to stay away from the power side as much as you can, which changes if you're working against a southpaw. I change everything depending on the problem that I see in front of me. The last real piece of the puzzle here is like, what can we do with our body? What physiologically, what can we do like strength-wise to stop knockouts from happening? Well, knockouts like shake your brain up, right? So one of the levers you can pull here is to work your neck, right? Like wrestlers work their neck a lot. And that's if you want to see how to work your neck as a wrestler, I'm sure there's a billion YouTube videos on it. If you really want it, put it in the comments, we'll put one out. That's first lever to pull would be work your neck a lot. Second lever to pull would be to work your legs a lot. Don't skip leg day, right? It's not a good idea for many reasons. Obviously, small calves are not the best thing. But also, what goes when a person gets hurt? Boom, you see this all the time. Guy like turns into Bambi and starts doing really weird stuff. That's because your legs get shut off, right? The connection, I'm not really sure what the physiological thing is that is happening here, but your legs and your brain stop communicating in a smart way, right? So they start doing things that you don't think they're gonna do, right? You're going to step and then your leg's just not there and all of a sudden you fall down. If you get hurt and it's not horrible, right? You're not like out right away. You get hurt and you start like your legs start acting weird. The stronger they are, the less weird they will act. They'll be able to come back a little faster. And the last lever to pull, I would say, is conditioning. If you have no gas tank, like your gas tank is already suspect, and you get hurt, the rest of the fight, you're screwed. That energy bar, you know, like a video game, right? You have this much energy, and then you get hit, and it goes like that, right? Well, if you have a good gas tank, that starts climbing back up. But if you don't, it just keeps getting worse, right? Because every time you try to exert yourself, it just keeps going down. If you do a lot of conditioning, if you're really strong metabolically, then less likely you're going to get knocked out too. These are some of the levers you can pull. I'm sure we could talk about this all day. There's a lot of things you can do, but I feel like these are the most important and the most major situations or major things that you could work on in order to stop you from getting knocked out. Okay, so please do this. Please go and work on your blocking system, work on your slipping system, work on your footwork system. Organize your movements in a way that's going to put the numbers in your favor a little bit, and then make your legs strong, make your neck strong. I heard of people making their jaw strong. I've never actually tried to do that. It might be a thing. I'm not really sure that it is though. But if you might as well try. If you have anything that you've done, right, to build your system so that you do not get knocked out, let us know what it is. If we haven't covered it, let us know what it is. Drop a comment. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Talk soon. Peace out.